One introduction RAWSEP view: the United States government was on track in the Biden administration to reduce the prices for both clean energy heat pumps and clean energy electric cars. Trump tariffs are expected to upset those plans to prevent future air pollution and prevent climate change. The United States government should, instead of certifying wood stoves as safe when they are not safe, go forward with regulations that ban wood stove use and direct government money for use of forest refuse only. For home building and furniture building, for just a few examples of use of forest products for non-burning uses, it is well known from scientific and medical research that wood burning is a substantial source of PM 2.5 emissions, yet the wood burning industry uses the scientifically debunked theory named carbon neutrality of wood burning to argue that wood burning replacing coal burning in industry, and in a trickle-down argument that wood burning should continue for home heating should continue. Presumably because it is called renewable, wood may be renewable in the sense that a tree can be planted in the place of a cut-down burned tree, but it takes centuries or decades for the newly planted tree to attain the stature of the cut-down burned tree. During those centuries or decades, photosynthesis, which converts CO2 to oxygen and so sequesters some carbon, will not take place at the same rate as photosynthesis was performed previously, and wood burning emits both CO2 and PM 2.5, and PM 2.5 is not absorbed by trees, so PM 2.5 is not diminished by planting a tree in the place of a cut-down and burned tree. In fact, a living tree closes its pores against the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning, just as humans hold their breath in the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning. And when a tree closes its pores, the level of photosynthesis that absorbs CO2 pollution goes down. Wood burning emits 90% PM 2.5 particulate matter of 2.5 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lungs, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Contrary to many beliefs, wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and wood burning emits 450 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning. Replacing coal burning with wood burning creates more air pollution in the form of CO2 and PM 2.5 than coal burning. This emission data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom, the Eco-Design Wood Stove, and International Convention does not count the emissions from wood burning. The emissions from wood burning are erased from all countries around the world when calculating if each country has met its climate goals. This non-counting or erasure of wood burning emissions data from climate goals does not mean wood burning emissions do not exist. RAWSEP view: purple air PM 2.5 monitors hanging from the eaves of the house of a near neighbor should be used to measure the level of PM 2.5 in the air hyperlocally in the yards of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners. If PM 2.5 levels exceed World Health Organization standards of 5 micrograms per cubic meter annually, then that evidence of air pollution from wood burning should lead to the shutdown of that indoor residential wood burning appliance, one appliance at a time if necessary.
Hi, my name is Lily. Andrew gave you the intro to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates and their concern for air pollution from indoor residential wood burning. Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates, or RAWSEP, would like every near neighbor of an indoor residential wood burner whose wood smoke enters their yards and sickens the near neighbors to have a purple air PM 2.5 monitor hanging from the eaves of their home to measure the level of PM 2.5 entering their yards. That measurement of air pollution should be used as evidence of unnecessary air pollution, and each indoor residential wood burner should be shut down based on that evidence, one indoor residential wood burner at a time if necessary. The presentation by Andrew ended at 2 minutes 5 seconds. The same presentation by Emma starts at 2 minutes 3 seconds before the end of this podcast. So I am Lily, your timekeeper, and you can start the next podcast at 2 minutes 5 seconds in if you would not like to see the presentation by Andrew a second time. This presentation by me, Lily, ends at 5 minutes in. What you will see in the main content of this RAWSEP podcast will be news about air pollution from indoor residential wood burning and how that air pollution is being combated by ordinary people just like you who are unfortunately near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners at this time. There will also be news about unnecessary and highly polluting use of wood as fuel in industrial wood burners and preventable air pollution from wood burning wildfires. There will also be news about air pollution from PM 2.5 from gas-powered cars. There will also be news about airborne diseases which are also preventable with vaccines such as COVID-19 and measles and whooping cough, to name just a few. In 2025, Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates is also concerned with combating the Trump destruction of government funding for programs which protect human health through the Department of Health and Human Services, and Trump destruction of programs which fund the science and medical research plan to protect human health from preventable illnesses. Protecting human health is a patriotic act, and our defense against enemies is weakened if we are not as healthy as we can be. Heat pump rebates are now offered by the federal government, distributed through the eligible United States, are available in 2025, and are the best, cleanest, and now cheapest alternative to indoor residential wood burning if that burning is actually done to purportedly save money. Wind and solar as sources of the electricity that powers heat pumps and electric cars is also cheaper than burning wood. The adverse health effects that are caused by indoor residential wood burning also come at a cost to near neighbors, both in shortening and ending their lives, and in actual hospital, clinic, and funeral costs. Instead of being compensated monetarily, near neighbors should instead be able to achieve immediate relief by stopping indoor residential wood burning in their hyper-localized neighborhoods, which relief readings from purple air PM 2.5 monitors used as evidence of air pollution will help them achieve. Welcome to news about hopeful scientific and medical achievements that will also help us achieve the goal of clean air to breathe.
Webisode 57DHXZZ December 4th, 2025 What to expect from the U.S. vaccine meeting this week. In Webisode 57DHXZZ 1 What to expect from the U.S. vaccine meeting this week, Hep B routine vaccination schedule, and a firehose of falsehoods 2 under RFK Junior The Health Department of America is in the business of promoting RFK Junior 3 Gavin Newsom rattles off negative White House moves 4 5 6 and 7 headlines main content. 1 What to expect from the U.S. vaccine meeting this week, Hep B routine vaccination schedule, and a firehose of falsehoods. Well folks, buckle up. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization, your local epidemiologist newsletter December 4th and 5th, 2025 ACIP. The advisory committee that guides U.S. vaccine policy meets again for 2 days. Mainly because a few months ago RFK Jr. overhauled the committee, replacing long-standing experts with individuals ranging from longtime vaccine skeptics to COVID-19 contrarians. Credible sources suggest none or very few of the ACIP presentations will be delivered by CDC scientists or experts. Instead, external groups, including some with clear anti-vaccine track records, are slated to take the lead. This is highly unusual, and I am incredibly concerned that data will be misinterpreted and misleading, and false claims will be presented as expert testimony. Reviewing the timing, spacing, and risks of each vaccine requires scientific expertise because the stakes are high. Get the evidence or timing wrong or lose sight of the historical reasons behind these recommendations, and preventable diseases can come roaring back, and once falsehoods are aired in this forum, they can spread quickly, potentially amplified by one of the highest offices of America. But there is good news. There is no vote for the childhood vaccination schedule as a whole. They will only discuss it. This means timing, spacing, and availability to you will not change. The only vote is on the hepatitis B vaccine, specifically whether to maintain the universal birth dose given within 24 hours of life. We know exactly what to expect. These players have relied on the same falsehoods and logical fallacies for decades. Their playbook has not changed. That means we can prepare the Thursday vote. The only vote tomorrow is on whether to keep the universal hepatitis B birth dose given within 24 hours of life. At the September meeting, the RFK Junior ACIP proposed delaying it for infants born to mothers who test negative. This decision could significantly affect vaccine availability for infants and increase the overall number of infections. Why the universal birth dose exists? Babies are especially vulnerable. 9 in 10 infants who catch it become chronically infected. 12 to 18% of U.S. pregnant women are never tested for hepatitis B. Only 35% of women who test positive get recommended follow-up care. The birth dose catches babies who fall through those cracks. What the evidence shows no safety, efficacy, or long-term benefit to delaying 3. Do children get too many vaccines? People hesitant about childhood vaccines often claim children receive 72 or 96 doses, but these numbers are misleading. Children receiving vaccines according to the current schedule receive about 54 doses over 18 years, protecting against 17 diseases, and a third of those are yearly flu vaccines. Misleading and inflated counts might include every yearly flu and COVID-19 shot count. Combination vaccines, like MMR, as separate vaccines or count vaccines given to pregnant mothers. 5. Aluminum ingredients and other familiar targets. Aluminum has been used safely in vaccines for more than 90 years. Trace amounts of aluminum in shots strengthen the immune response, helping the body develop better protection. It allows vaccines to use smaller amounts of antigen and reduce the number of doses needed. Fortunately, we have recent and high-quality data showing this is safe. How to recognize the playbook? It is impossible to anticipate each potential misleading or false claim that may emerge this week. DNA fragments in vaccines will likely come up. Autism almost certainly will. Responding to vaccine falsehoods and rumors, as we have done here, can feel like whack-a-mole, refuting one false statement after another in a never-ending cycle. So, while we work to debunk specific claims, it is equally important to understand the underlying tactics. Recognizing patterns will help us all be more discerning regardless of the topic. Watch for false authority. Non-experts framed as experts appeal to fear, magnifying tiny risks, minimizing bigger ones. Correlation is not equal to causation. Cherry-picking one flawed study versus dozens of high-quality ones. Moving goalposts. If it is not thimerosal, then aluminum or DNA. Reversing the burden of proof, demanding that others disprove a claim instead of providing evidence for it. Anecdotes as evidence. Naturalistic fallacy. Natural immunity is better. False balance. Both sides, even when evidence is lopsided. These tactics matter because they are designed to confuse, overwhelm, and erode trust, not inform. Bottom line, these vaccine policy meetings have real-world consequences for your access to vaccines, for how diseases show up in your community, and for the rumors and falsehoods that will inevitably flood social media, podcasts, and other information spaces. We will be back with cliff notes from the meeting, and most importantly, what it all means for you. Love, wily, unbiased science, and the evidence collective. 2. Under RFK Jr. The Health Department of America is in the business of promoting RFK Jr. Thursday KFF newsletter December 4th, 2025 KFF Health News Original Stories. 1. Under RFK Jr. The Health Department of America is in the business of promoting RFK Jr. First subject vaccines. 4. Vaccine committee could vote today to end newborn hepatitis B shots administration. News. 5. FDA is reshuffling leadership roles as angst deepens with pastor exit. Capitol Watch. 6. At Wednesday hearing, senators leave door open to extending ACA subsidies. State Watch. 8. Mangione back in court exactly 1 year after the United Healthcare CEO death. Pharmaceuticals. 9. Court ruling in India shakes up global market on weight loss drugs. Editorials and opinions. 10. Viewpoints. Removing designations will worsen nursing shortage. Overdiagnosis debate gets it wrong. 3. Gavin Newsom rattles off negative White House moves New York City. 5. Takeaways from the 2025 Deal Book Summit. The Trump economic policies and artificial intelligence were among the central topics at the gathering of business and political leaders. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission Particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The New York Times, December 3rd, 2025. Gavin Newsom Erica Kirk, Dario Amodei, Scott Bessent, and other leaders from across the worlds of business and politics discussed tariffs, artificial intelligence, cryptocurrency, and how President Trump is reshaping global trade and the economy. At the 2024 summit, tensions ran high ahead of the Trump return to the White House. But a year later, some speakers on Wednesday defended many of the Trump recent policies. Then there is Newsom, the governor of California, who has positioned himself as a foil to Trump, and a potential presidential candidate himself in 2028, said the president acted like a man-child and had pushed America back to before the 1960s. Newsom was not shy about voicing his criticism of the president. One beef, he rattled off the Trump moves to take equity stakes in the chipmaker Intel, and MP Materials, an operator of rare earth mines in California, and a golden share in U.S. Steel, as signs that chief executives had grown too cozy with the administration. What the hell happened to free enterprise? He said, a healthy horse pulling a sturdy wagon. What is going on with this country? For headlines, the New York Times, December 4th, 2025. Films. Which films could be nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars? The New York Times, India and Russia. What to know about the Putin visit to India as oil trade dries up. The New York Times, Minnesota, cold Somalis, obstacles to the Trump push to deport Minnesota Somalis, reality and the cold. The New York Times, New York City, RAWSEP view. Governor Gavin Newsom attended the conference organized by Andrew Ross Sorkin. From the article headline, 5 takeaways from the 2025 Deal Book Summit. The New York Times, New York City, how NYC is trying to stop subway fare evasion spikes, fins guards. The New York Times, Republican GOP anger erupts at Johnson as party frets about future. The New York Times, Taiwan opposition leader wants for independence turns toward China. The New York Times, Tennessee, what Tennessee revealed about the Go P Trump trap in the midterms. The New York Times, Trump actions, Trump renames Institute of Peace for himself. The New York Times, Ukraine, Trump faces choices on Russia-Ukraine talks as peace deal deadline passes. The New York Times, United Arab Emirates and Yemen separatist forces backed by UAE march into oil-rich region. The New York Times, Venezuela, the U.S. military boat strikes planning takes on new significance. The New York Times, Venezuela, Caracas, under growing military pressure, Caracas moves to its own rhythm. The New York Times. 5 headlines. The New York Times, December 3rd, 2025. Afghanistan, the dire warnings of a volunteer about the National Guard DC shooting. Suspect. The New York Times, air pollution, RAWSEP view. PM 2.5 from fossil fuels is similar to air pollution PM 2.5 from indoor residential, wood burning, and industrial wood burning. From the article headline, Trump returns to gasoline as fuel of choice for cars, gutting the Biden climate policy. The New York Times. Arizona, Phoenix, 18,000 reasons it is so hard to build a chip factory in America. The New York Times, Arizona, Phoenix, a growing U.S. tech hub needs workers. Colleges try to keep up. The New York Times, Arizona, Taiwanese in Arizona desert, Taiwanese families create community and build a factory. The New York Times, artificial intelligence. Silicon Valley builds Amazon and Gmail copycats to train AI agents. The New York Times, Australia, nature after deadly attacks. Australia debates, do shark nets work? The New York Times, California, nature, a 550-pound bear chooses the house of a California man house as his den. The New York Times, California, RAWSEP view. Exiles from California return after a few years to housing they can now afford. From the article headline, they left Texas for a new home in the desert outside Palm Springs. The New York Times, California beat RFK Junior to the punch by passing law against ultra-processed food. RFK Junior lack of knowledge of science and medicine. How do ultra-processed foods affect the gut? The New York Times, cats, RAWSEP view. The headline, pun is probably better than giving your cat a drug. The editor of RAWSEP has these 2 pieces of advice. Exercise a cat on an exercise wheel and get a cap to jump for toys routinely. Only feed a cat when it asks. From the article headline, could weight loss drugs turn fat cats into svelte ozone pets? The New York Times, Christmas trees, RAWSEP view. Why kill evergreen trees once a year just to make them seasonal baubles? This film documents the competition for cash from selling once living Christmas trees. Tangentially, a recent TV news story showed a woman explaining to her toddler why they were chopping down the tree once in their front yard to sell it to a New York City TV station, so it could have the honor of being decorated for a month or so downtown. From the article headline, the Merchants of Joy review. Cutthroat Christmas tree sales. The New York Times. Climate change data and analysis. The publication Nature retracts study predicting catastrophic climate toll. The New York Times, Congo conflict with Rwanda. Trump to host Congo and Rwanda leaders for peace talks in persistent conflict. The New York Times, Consumers Food and Drug Administration, RAWSEP view. Surprisingly, is the FDA doing its job? Probably incompetently. Good news. You cannot ignore metal and cheese. From the article headline, FDA orders recall of more than 1.5 million bags of shredded cheese. The New York Times, Consumers Internet, how to get your smart TV to stop spying on you reviews by Wirecutter. Consumers Internet, how to secure your financial and health data reviews by Wirecutter. Consumers reading our favorite books for a last-minute holiday gift. The New York Times. Consumers Internet, people are uploading their medical records to AI chatbots. The New York Times, Consumers Food, RAWSEP view. How could you have a Chateau Royale in your own home at a better price? From the article headline, Restaurant reviews, Chateau Royale, Los Burritos, Juarez Bar Caboa, and Bartolo. The New York Times, Consumers Internet, the best data removal services of 2025. Wirecutter. Consumers Food, this little-known diet can actually lower your cholesterol. The New York Times, Consumers of Internet, backup and secure your digital life. Wirecutter. Democrat, RAWSEP view. California Governor Gavin Newsom is a brave man, or has a high tolerance for boredom from enduring the drivel of others. From the article headline, Deal Book Summit 2025 live updates. Netanyahu, Erica Kirk, Mr. Beast, and more speak. The New York Times, Democrats, Trump Agriculture Department threatens to withhold SNAP funding from Democratic states. The New York Times, exercise, a 20-minute workout to build strength for everyday tasks. The New York Times, film, J. Kelly review, all his memories are movies. The New York Times. Film, The Sondheim Merrily We Roll Along is now a film. Here is what to know. The New York Times film, The Dark Secrets of the Dennis Johnson Train Dreams. The New York Times, Florida, the 85-year-old activist trying to block the Trump presidential library plan. The New York Times, France, nail theft hits France before holiday rush. The New York Times. Honduras, the Trump former campaign manager assisted Honduran presidential candidate. The New York Times, Illinois, Chicago music jazz, 5 minutes, that will make you love the ACM. The New York Times, Kenya kept a diplomat in his job despite years of sex abuse accusations. The New York Times, liquid environmentally friendly coffee. The New York Times. Music, Paul Williams, songwriter for the Muppets and the Carpenters, takes a bow. The New York Times Music Spotify Wrapped has users talking about their listening age. The New York Times Music Spotify Wrapped is not the only app quantifying our social lives. The New York Times Music, Steve Cropper, guitarist, songwriter, and shaper of Memphis soul music, dies at 80. For the New York Times. Nature, it is no dodo, but this newly discovered bird could share the same fate. The New York Times. New Jersey, RAWSEP view bad Democrats take action before Mikey Sherrill takes office as governor. From the article headline, Democrats in New Jersey ram through bill to defund a corruption watchdog. The New York Times. New York artificial intelligence. As New York Governor Kathy Hochul considers an AI bill, its sponsor throws her a fundraiser. The New York Times. New York City architecture, LED lights, height 270 Park is a bold addition to the New York City skyline. The New York Times. New York City, a sidewalk encounter between two longtime neighbors ends in a death. The New York Times. New York City Democrat. The Democrat Brooklyn Borough president will run for House seat as socialists circle. The New York Times. New York City fashion, RAWSEP view the fashions on display in the subway are more subdued than when strutted on a catwalk in an atelier. From the article headline, Chanel brings a great métiers of art show to the NYC subway. The New York Times. New York City transportation opinion, paying for free buses means free street parking must end. The New York Times. New York City school integration has lost steam. Will Mamdani revive it in New York? The New York Times. Republicans, House Republicans subpoena Jack Smith over prosecutions of Trump. The New York Times. RFK Junior lack of knowledge of medicine and science. Cancer detecting blood tests are on the rise. Do they work? The New York Times. RFK Junior lack of knowledge of science and medicine. Former FDA commissioner sound alarm on plan to change vaccine policy. The New York Times. RFK Junior lack of knowledge of science and medicine. Hepatitis B vaccine, once a public health win, is under threat from RFK Jr. The New York Times. RFK Junior lack of knowledge of science and medicine inside the RFK Jr. methodical quest to shake up the vaccine system of America. The New York Times. RFK Jr. lack of knowledge of science and medicine. Pregnancy after 35, the so-called fertility cliff explained. The New York Times. RFK Jr. lack of knowledge of medicine and science. Will all newborns still receive hepatitis B shots? A committee vote will tell. The New York Times. Russia Internet. Russia pushes a state-controlled super app by sabotaging its rivals. The New York Times. Russia space program problem, launch site mishap leaves the Russian space program in limbo. The New York Times. Science, sterile neutrino prediction muddled by latest experiments. The New York Times. Trump actions, opinion, why Republicans are starting to inch away from Trump. The New York Times. Trump actions and visible inaction. Trump appears to fight sleep during cabinet meeting. The New York Times. Trump crypto, the Bitcoin predicted sky-high prices have not panned out. The New York Times. Trump Epstein fallout. Ghislaine Maxwell says she will ask a court to free her from prison. The New York Times. Trump Epstein fallout opinion, do not trust the Epstein files. The New York Times. Trump Epstein fallout photos of the Jeffrey Epstein private island released by Democrats. The New York Times. Trump Fed pick puts pressure on Scott Bessent to deliver for Trump. The New York Times. Trump ideas, opinion, guess which presidential power Trump likes the most. The New York Times. Trump lack of affordability. Business, RAWSEP view, does Costco speak for the working class like Marjorie Taylor Greene? From the article headline, Costco sues Trump administration for refund of tariffs. The New York Times. Trump lack of affordability. Private employers cut jobs in November in latest sign of a slowdown. The New York Times. Trump lack of affordability. Shoppers turn to discounts and debt, but not just for holidays. The New York Times. Trump military Pentagon watchdog finds the Hegseth signal chat wrist endangering U.S. troops. The New York Times. Trump pardons Texas Democrat. Trump plans to pardon Henry Cuellar. Texas Democratic lawmaker live updates. The New York Times. Trump pardons developer prosecuted by the Trump administration. The New York Times. Trump tariffs and Supreme Court ahead of tariff ruling, businesses race to secure refunds. The New York Times. TV, RAWSEP view, Adult Swim animated series about drug discovery stymied by search for profits. From the article headline, best TV shows of 2025. The New York Times. TV late night thinks the war on drugs has gone a bit off the rails. The New York Times. Ukraine, Europe wants to get the word out. Russia is to blame for sabotage. The New York Times. Ukraine, France and China. Macron urges Xi to help end war in Ukraine. The New York Times. Ukraine. Macron reportedly warned Zelensky U.S. may betray Ukraine on territory. Ukraine. The Guardian. Ukraine opinion centrists were supposed to save Europe. Instead, they are condemning it to horrors. The New York Times. Ukraine opinion, the useful idiots from America whom Putin is playing like a flute. The New York Times. Ukraine stakes high. Europe races to save its financing plan for Ukraine. The New York Times. Ukraine. Trump faces choices on Russia-Ukraine talks as peace deal deadline passes. The New York Times. Ukraine. U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff to meet Ukraine national security chief in Miami. Ukraine. The Guardian. Venezuela opinion, Congress should investigate the Trump-Venezuela boat strikes. The New York Times. Venezuela, the Fuhrer over the Trump boat attacks and a particular follow-up strike explained. The New York Times. Venezuela. Trump and Hegseth comments on boat strike leave Admiral Bradley exposed. The New York Times. Virginia. Nature versus nurture, a drunk raccoon passed out in the bathroom of a Virginia liquor store. The New York Times. 6 headlines. The Guardian. December 4th, 2025. EPA fallout to harm human health. RFK Jr. lack of knowledge of science and medicine. Fossil fuel billionaires bought up millions of shares after meeting with top Trump officials. Oil and gas companies. The Guardian. EPA fallout to harm human health. RFK Jr. lack of knowledge of science and medicine. New England warming faster than most places on Earth. Study finds U.S. weather. The Guardian. France. Macron reportedly warned European leaders there is a chance that the U.S. will betray Ukraine. Europe live. Myanmar revealed Myanmar junta crony given key role behind FIFA peace prize. FIFA. The Guardian. RFK Jr. lack of knowledge of science and medicine. Never seen anything like this. Alarm at memo from top U.S. vaccine official. U.S. healthcare. The Guardian. RFK Jr. lack of knowledge of science and medicine. The RFK Junior Vaccine Advisory Panel to weigh delaying hepatitis B shots to newborns. RFK Junior, the Guardian. Trump pardons entertainment exec indicted by his own Justice Department. Trump administration. The Guardian. Ukraine. Europe is holding the line against the Trump and Putin plans for Ukraine, but it will not be able to forever. Martin Kettle. The Guardian. Ukraine path to peace in Ukraine unclear, says Trump as U.S. envoys prepare to meet Kiev. Official Ukraine. The Guardian. Ukraine war briefing stop, wasting the time of the world. Putin told Ukraine. The Guardian. 7 headlines. The Guardian. December 3, 2025. Colombia president warns Trump, do not wake the jaguar with threats of military strikes. Colombia. The Guardian. Democrats. Trump officials threaten to withhold SNAP funds from Democratic-led states. Trump administration. The Guardian. EPA fallout to harm human health. RFK Junior. Lack of knowledge of science and medicine. The environmental cost of corn should the U.S. change how it grows its dominant crop. Farming. The Guardian. EPA fallout to harm human health. RFK Junior. Lack of knowledge of science and medicine. Trump says he will repeal Biden-era fuel efficiency standards for cars and trucks. Trump administration. The Guardian. EPA fallout to harm human health. RFK Junior. Lack of knowledge of science and medicine. The Trump EPA moves to abandon tough standards for deadly soot pollution. U.S. News. The Guardian. Music. This Spotify Wrapped season. Do not outsource your love of music to AI music. The Guardian. New York City. The Mamdani effect. Wealthy New Yorkers show renewed interest in the Miami. Billionaire Beach. Florida. The Guardian. Republicans' cracks have emerged in the mega coalition. Moira Donegan. The Guardian. RFK Junior. Lack of knowledge of science and medicine. FDA drug chief signals possible exit as agency turmoil deepens. Trump administration. The Guardian. RFK Junior. Lack of knowledge of science and medicine. NIH funds new cat experiments despite pledge to phase them out. Watchdog reports animals. The Guardian. Trump affordability, how the dollar store industry overcharges cash-strapped customers while promising low prices. U.S. News. The Guardian. Trump cabinet meeting. Trump treats cabinet to stream of vitriol and untruths, but only when he is awake. Donald Trump. The Guardian. Trump Epstein fallout. House Democrats release new images of the Epstein private Caribbean island. Jeffrey Epstein. The Guardian. Trump pardons Democratic representative charged with bribery and conspiracy. Donald Trump. The Guardian. Trump tariffs. What to know when the ban on most U.S. hemp products goes into effect. Cannabis. The Guardian. TV. Jimmy Kimmel on the Trump administration. They have better quality cabinets at IKEA. Late night TV roundup. The Guardian. Ukraine. European Commission plans reparations loan to Ukraine using frozen Russian assets. European Union. The Guardian. Ukraine. The Guardian. View on U.S.-Russia talks on Ukraine. A warning to Europe to move faster on security cooperation. Editorial. The Guardian. Ukraine. Which areas is Russia demanding as its price for peace in Ukraine? Visual explainer. Ukraine. The Guardian. Ukraine peace deal has stumbled yet again over an inevitable obstacle. Putin. Ukraine. The Guardian. United Kingdom. Can you be on a 6-figure income and still be considered poor? Arwa Madawi. The Guardian. United Kingdom partygoers are pushing for clubs to offer free water. It costs as much as a beer club. Culture. The Guardian. United Kingdom. In Germany. King welcomes German president in first state visit to UK in 27 years. Germany. The Guardian. Virginia. Nature or nurture? Drunk raccoon found passed out in Virginia liquor store. Virginia. The Guardian.
Red Green Fox here. The quick red green fox jumped over the barriers to clean air. Red Green Fox here. Ready to sing to you the names of the 2025 major wood-burning biomass industry subsidy opponents. 1. Biofuel Watch. 2. Bulkley Valley Stewardship Coalition of British Columbia, Canada. 3. Comite Shown Lucht, which means Beautiful Air Committee in German. 4. Dogwood Alliance. 5. Equity Group Foundation, nicknamed EGF. 6. Environmental Paper Network, nicknamed EPN. 7. Natural Resources Defense Council, nicknamed NRDC. 8. Prakaunia Narzexwisistik Istit, which means Workshop for All Beings in Polish. 9. Rachel Carson Council. 10. Solutions for Our Climate, nicknamed SFOC.
Cat's corner strategy with Tiger and Leone. Saying the quiet part out loud. Roar. Hi, I am Tiger. Our human asked us to get up from our naps and start Cat's Corner strategy with Tiger and Leone. She gave us a list of internet allies which we will post for her here.
Hi, I am Leone. It is better for your mental fitness to go to these websites than to go to bro sites for advice. Substack letters from an American Heather Cox Richardson. Substack your local epidemiologist. The Midas Touch. The Guardian. The New York Times.
One introduction. RAWSEP view. The United States government was on track in the Biden administration to reduce the prices for both clean energy heat pumps and clean energy electric cars. Trump tariffs are expected to upset those plans to prevent future air pollution and prevent climate change. The United States government should, instead of certifying wood stoves as safe when they are not safe, go forward with regulations that ban wood stove use and direct government money for use of forest refuse only for home building and furniture building. For just a few examples of use of forest products for non-burning uses, it is well known from scientific and medical research that wood burning is a substantial source of PM 2.5 emissions, yet the wood burning industry uses the scientifically debunked theory named carbon neutrality of wood burning to argue that wood burning replacing coal burning in industry, and in a trickle-down argument that wood burning should continue for home heating should continue. Presumably because it is called renewable, wood may be renewable in the sense that a tree can be planted in the place of a cut-down burned tree, but it takes centuries or decades for the newly planted tree to attain the stature of the cut-down burned tree. During those centuries or decades, photosynthesis, which converts CO2 to oxygen, and so sequesters some carbon, will not take place at the same rate as photosynthesis was performed previously, and wood burning emits both CO2 and PM 2.5, and PM 2.5 is Not absorbed by trees, so PM 2.5 is not diminished by planting a tree in the place of a cut down and burn tree. In fact, a living tree closes its pores against the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning, just as humans hold their breath in the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning. And when a tree closes its pores, the level of photosynthesis that absorbs CO2 pollution goes down. Wood burning emits 90% PM 2.5 particulate matter of 2.5 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lung, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Contrary to many beliefs, wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and wood burning emits 450 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning. Replacing coal burning with wood burning creates more air pollution in the form of CO2 and PM 2.5 than coal burning. This emission data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom, the Eco-Design Wood Stove. An international convention does not count the emissions from wood burning. The emissions from wood burning are erased from all countries around the world when calculating if each country has met its climate goals. This non-counting or erasure of wood burning emissions data from climate goals does not mean wood burning emissions do not exist. RAWSEP view purple air PM 2.5 monitors hanging from the eaves of the house of a near neighbor should be used to measure the level of PM 2.5 in the air hyperlocally in the yards of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners. If PM 2.5 levels exceed World Health Organization standards of 5 micrograms per cubic meter annually, then that evidence of air pollution from wood burning should lead to the shutdown of that indoor residential wood burning appliance, one appliance at a time if necessary.